Welcome to the Hall of Fame podcast, and our sponsor is Fullbay Software. Whether you're running an independent shop that does tractor or trailer repair, or your in-house shop within your fleet, Fullbay Software will improve proficiency, productivity, and overall profitability for your shop. Please check out their software in our description wherever our podcast is consumed. And now, welcome to the Hall of Fame. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. I am lucky to have Travis from MacKay Company today. We're going to talk a little about business intelligence and how it affects the transportation industry. I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to pass it over to Travis. So Travis, tell me a little bit about what you guys do and how it affects the trucking industry, sir.
Yes, of course. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate you having me on today. I'll keep it short and brief here in terms of what we do, but MacKay Company is a specified market intelligence provider to the transportation industry. We've been in business for 57 years, and we have a number of different services and research projects that we work on, but primarily we help suppliers size and profile the aftermarket demand for their products. And a lot of what goes into that is research that we do with truck owners and fleets about their maintenance practices for a given component, how long they run their vehicles before they have to replace a turbocharger, let's say. When they do, who does that service work? Where do they go to provide or where do they go to purchase that part? If it's a component that's lends itself to a remanufacturing process, we'll ask them, are they buying a new part or a reman part or potentially just going and getting a rebuilt part down the street from a specialist? So we do a lot of primary research with truck fleets and owners to gather data that helps us with those parts consumption models that we give to suppliers in the industry, primarily truck manufacturers and component suppliers.
So tell me how that, so you're gathering the data, whether they're using a refurbished part, a new part, so forth. So tell me how that data is then used to give to the manufacturer. Walk me through that process.
Absolutely. So there's two parts really to it. We have to gather the consumption data from truck fleets about how things last and how long things last and where they go to buy the parts. But we then have to apply that to what we believe the operating universe of vehicles are in a given country. We profile demand in a number of countries for a number of different industries, but primarily, at least for today's talk, we'll focus on the U.S. Medium and heavy-duty truck market, which is, to us at least, Class 6 vehicles up through Class 8 tractor trailers and container chassis. And so we develop what we believe to be the active operating populations of those vehicles in a given market, and then we apply our consumption modeling against that. And that helps suppliers, vehicle manufacturers understand where they need to have their products to better serve fleets. So while we do, understand that the survey requests we send out to truck owners and fleets can be annoying, and I know that's a good portion of your audience here. We do always pay for the survey work that we do when we're asking people for input, but ultimately it is being used so that these suppliers that are helping these truck fleets in the market better serve their business needs ultimately as well. And in addition to paying people, we'll donate to a charity as well. So we understand these take time out of people's days to do, but if you do ever see survey requests from MacKay Company, please do keep that in mind. We always keep that information confidential that you give us, but we use that summarized information on maintenance practices to help suppliers really meet your business needs.
Hey, let me ask you a question. So as I'm going back into my trucking background, when I was managing trucks, does that help, for instance, to get more product in that market? So let's say, I don't know, something is burning higher in the LA market. So does that help the manufacturer push more product there? Because there's several times I can remember a truck being down and it was waiting for parts. So does your what you are gathering help lower that downtime for vehicles by having the parts more readily available from the manufacturer?
That's a great question, Ken. I appreciate it. That is something that we help manufacturers with. Certainly, we have an add-on service to our DataMac products. DataMac is a general term we use for any of our parts consumption modeling that we do. But we have this add-on service called Local Area Market Potential, or LAMP. And that does help manufacturers understand where the demand is for a particular product in a particular area, be it a state or MSA, for instance. So we can help them size demand for a given product so that they can ensure that those parts are available to fleets when needed. And it's just an example of how the research that we do, again, while I know it's annoying to get survey requests, ultimately does get used by us and the manufacturers that we do the research for, to have their products in the right places at the right time when fleets need them.
Okay, so so you're going to see, so if a product it's supposed to last, I don't know, we use something, a filter or whatever it is supposed to last 90 days, and you show it's lasting 60, and you compile these surveys and you give it back to the manufacturer. Are they then adjusted and saying, okay, this part should last 10,000 miles, 60 days or so? Do you see adjustment in the market on the products as they're rolled out?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a great point in the example you just gave in filters, for instance. We've been tracking filter replacement mileage for, decades now. And in a lot of instances, at least the last couple of years, you've seen much higher manufacturer recommended replacement intervals out there. When we actually survey fleets, we find that they're replacing those filters actually well before those new extended manufacturer intervals that are being recommended. So this is an instance where a manufacturer may be thinking their product is lasting 100,000 miles, but in reality, the fleet's actually changing that at 60,000 miles. Now those mileages don't apply exactly to oil filters, of course.
Yes, I get that.
Something of more frequency, but you get the idea of how you can, either drastically overestimate or underestimate demand simply by using a manufacturer recommended replacement interval for your planning purposes. And that's part of the reason why we do this primary research with fleets and pick their brains on, not only their replacement mileage, but why is that? Why is it that maybe you are replacing those products before that recommended interval?
And I'm going to give you some background. Some of it could be because someone told them to replace them every time they do a B service. So even though that truck has 60,000 miles and let's say it's 100,000, we're just using those. These are fictitious numbers, gentlemen. So they'll run with it. They may say, hey, since they're here for this service, do it anyway. Or is it actually warranted? So I guess you have to kind of differentiate that, because I know that there people are big on schedules. If something's in for, let's say, a B service, one of the things on the checklist is to replace the filter, for instance. But the filter may not be fully worn. Maybe it's a new design. Maybe it lasts longer. I don't know, but you got to be careful whether it's being replaced because it's a scheduled replacement or it's being replaced because it's fully used.
Yeah, also great points. And one of the choices we gave people on a recent one that went out was, are you doing that or replacing them sooner, perhaps on a annual basis or on, as you mentioned, a preventative maintenance basis where the vehicle is in the shop for a whole list of services. And even though it may not have run 100,000 miles yet, you're still going to replace that fuel filter based on the fact that the vehicle's in there for service. You don't want to pull it off the road just for a fuel filter replacement necessarily. So a lot of that is happening and all goes into our development of demand for whatever component we may be profiling.
All right. So I got a curveball question. I don't know if you could answer to that. So if I ran a fleet All right. If I ran a fleet, let's say in New Jersey, and I had 200 trucks, and I have a list of parts that I use. Let's say it's Kenworth. It's Kenworth. Okay. Just to pick a brand. Don't like Kenworth better than International anyone else. So please don't go after me with this. So you've
That's
Kenworth.
okay. We do business with all the truck manufacturers, so
All right, perfect.
we can choose any
All
fleet,
right.
but
All right, here we go.
they're included.
All right, here we go. So could I get the data to say that, hey, this part on average from your company is telling me this brake should last this long in my market, that should last this? Could I know you asked me for survey, but could I get the data to give it to my maintenance people and says, hey, we are below the average in this market on brake pads from whoever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that data available? And it's not. I just crossed my mind as we're talking.
Yeah, it is, and it's not something that we generally track down to the vehicle brand level, but it's certainly something that we would provide back to survey respondents, fleets, and owners of vehicles so that they can compare where they stand to industry averages. So while we do always, again, pay people for their time for completing surveys, or we'll donate to a charity of their choice, enter them into a raffle, some type of incentive for completing these surveys. In a lot of cases, fleets will ask us if we can also provide them with some summary information of the research that we've conducted. And so that's always something that we look into giving back to folks too, if they're interested.
I'm going to say for someone, I mean, at one point I ran 3,000 trucks. Someone managed their trucks. I mean, I like prizes. I like giveaways. Is great. The data to me to see how I compare in a market, forget the truck brand, whatever it is, compare the market on brakes, you name it, transmission, whatever the product is, to see how I compare and whether on like-minded fleets, let's say I'm running local fleets, I'm running 100 miles. So in the New York metro area, the tri-state area, let's call it the tri-state area, a local truck is getting X, and where do I stand? Because I think it tells you a lot. Maybe you need to have your drivers drive differently. Maybe you need to coach them. Maybe the mechanics are changing things before we should, because we think the average life is this, but the average life is actually not X, it's Y. So I think that's something that my viewers that fill out these surveys, you probably should ask. I mean, I don't know if you don't mind giving the data. I don't know why they're not asking for that versus the other things that you offer.
Yeah, no, we love to hear that. Obviously, as a data provider, we certainly find or believe that what we're collecting is very valuable, not only to the suppliers that we primarily serve, but to truck fleets as well. To your point on different operating characteristics by part of country or type of business, we do segment demand down into 10 different business types. So there's obviously a lot of different operating characteristics between, say, a for-hire carrier that's running over 100,000 miles a year on average, and say a Class 8 that's on a farm that may be, running less than 20,000 miles per year. So a lot of different operating characteristics that are going to go into those demand calculations that we can share with folks on a type of fleet level. Too, that I believe is helpful.
No, I think that's great. I think it's. I mean, data itself, I think, is very powerful when you think about managing a fleet and manage it to be as efficient as possible. Cost is a big component right now because margins are low, because rates are low. I mean, truck companies are in a really tough time. They've been in a really tough time. I call it the Great Freight Depression, and it's started in 2023 and it's continuing into 2025. So I think having that data is important. And I think for the people that are filling out the surveys, I think you should truly ask yourself, hey, why don't I take that data? Why don't I drill down into it? And why don't I talk to my maintenance people? You have to talk to your maintenance, and you have to talk to your driving force. You have to talk to your fleet managers and say, are you using this data to manage? Do you see how you compare? And then compare it within your company itself. I mean, if you have 5 fleet managers that break up your 200 trucks, how are they doing against each other? I think any type of KPI you can give, I think, is excellent. So I like that.
In addition, to the research that we do a lot of proprietary research for folks too. So if it's not something that we have off the shelf, but that we can help a truck fleet with and something we can analyze for them or research for them, certainly, we have the capabilities to do that, as well as just sharing summary data for the particular project we may be working on at a given time. Again, primarily our clients tend to be the vehicle manufacturers, the component suppliers to the industry, but we have done a lot of work for truck fleets as well.
Well, there you go, truckers. Somebody truck owners out there. That, if you want more than a standard data, they're willing to provide it for you. They ask you to do a survey. I think the survey helps everyone having more data. So
we like to believe so.
That's all right. So with that said, in closing, hey, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to cover? I give you an opportunity to talk about it, sir.
No, not necessarily. We know obviously it's a ever-changing environment currently with everything that's going on from a tariff perspective today. We like to track, a lot of current topical issues as well as the surveys that we send out on general maintenance practices that help us with our parts consumption modeling. So if again, there's ever anything that you need, please feel free to reach out to us directly. Ken has my information, but you can always go to our website at www.mackayco.com. That's mackayco.com. And please do keep an open mind when you get those annoying survey requests from MacKay Company. We do always pay for them. We'll provide summary information of the results to you all. Anything we can do really to help fleets and truck owners who are helping us with this research. So
I think that's amazing. And to our listeners, we'll also list his webpage on the podcast on One Truck America when it airs. So you will have it. So you'll be able to get to them directly. If you did not write that down, you can write it down. That works also. But it will be linked to their webpage. So great data, big data, using to improve your maintenance. You're able to use this data yourself, which I think is amazing because they'll provide it back to you. And they offer you some funds to fill out a survey. What else can you really ask for? So with that said, thank you, Travis, from MacKay Company for being on the Hall of Fame, and have a great day.